Okay, good morning, good morning. This is exciting, right? We're into color and why. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions about last week? I did see a couple posts in the group, but I haven't been able to catch up and read that. So I'm not sure if there was any questions there. There, any questions? Or even just thoughts?
So we'll need white today also?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not really sure if we might get into a little bit of blue, tiny bit, and we'll talk about that when and if. But I'll go over what we need to decide. We need to talk about what to do. This is part of the process. I know it's going to be yellow, so if you want to grab your yellows, I have 3 out. I have a light, a medium. Well, I have like a medium Indian yellow and then yellow ochre. And it doesn't have to be those. You can just have 2, something that's a little lighter or cooler and darker and warmer.
I just have a cadmium yellow.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and have some white out.
I have a question about now, like with these further layers, or continuing on with these layers, how much to thin the paint? Because my paint is like super thick.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Holland is, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know now how much to, and I am liking that Gamsol, but it really absorbs. I don't know if it's a surface combination of how much I'm using of the solvent and the surface because it's the oil paper.
Mm.
So now I don't know what kind of consistency would be right for these layers is what I'm asking.
Okay. I think it's better that I demonstrate that with the camera. Let me, just think for a second about relating it to. I think it should be as thin as oil, as thin as the linseed oil. And that doesn't mean just purely using linseed oil. If you have Gamsol, you can use a little bit of both.
Okay, so now we're getting into oil because I didn't use any of the oil yet.
Now we're getting into oil because we're fatter.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
so we're not using, are we using liquid at all this week?
Yeah, I'm going to use, so we've done our first layer and we tried our best to be as lean as possible, which means using mineral spirits or some sort of solvent, or using a liquid, which is an alkyd medium, and that's quick dry. This layer, so we're going to at least have 3 more layers because we have yellow, blue, and red. So that's minimum. We can start getting a little bit fatter as we go. It has a lot to do with the dry time in between the weeks. So I think it's safe to say half and half today. So 1-to-1 ratio of liquid to oil.
But no linseed today.
So liquid 50% and then linseed 50%.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. You guys got to catch me on these words if I'm not being clear because it's not so natural and eloquent for me. And just to remind us that it's not such a big deal, the ratios that we're using, because glazing is such a thin layer in and of itself. Is everyone's painting dry today?
There's a little area with the darker that is tacky, but that's it. Just a tiny bit. Everything else is dry.
Was that thicker, that area then?
Yeah, it's where where I added more because you get darker in this area, so it is a little thicker.
Okay, now
so Yep, so it's tacky, but it's not, and I can still paint over it even if it's tacky.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's so, that's a great question, like, because this is not like acrylic where it forms a skin that more or less prevents evaporation of the water. So oil is, it dries differently. I thought I would show you these things that were more alla prima. So actually I think with the clouds, depending on if we have 1 or 2 sessions, I'll probably talk a little bit about more alla prima, maybe with 1 layer of glaze. But just this is just painting in one go.
Oh, yeah.
This was primed. This was a wood panel primed. And so these layers here in the sky and underneath are very, very thin. There was a green layer underneath this that was very thin. So I did that with solvent. And then I started to come in with thicker strokes that were very much out of the tube. But, you know, as Irene was saying, her brand, Old Holland, is as they pack as much pigment as possible so it can be incredibly stiff. So I would add a little bit of oil so that I could get a nice smooth stroke. And then I left them. So this is still the fat over lean, even though I did it all in one sitting and that first layer wasn't dry. And here's another example. This was also painted in one sitting, alla prima, going in first with more solvent, and then as you require stronger color, more final layers. And there's a trick also with, and this goes for all paint with body, but that in the final layers, especially highlights, that you do them, there's glass on this as well, sorry, but you do them thicker so that it actually creates like a 3D relief. But you know, why you use your solvents or your oil, you'll get familiar with when to pick up what, is for smooth strokes. So if I wanted really smooth, blendable areas, then I would want more oil. If I wanted something to feel sort of in between, then you add a little bit of both.
And when you do alla prima like that, and this is kind of a question, is it doesn't matter whether
Okay,
you use the not oil or oil, because
Okay.
it's all done at one setting, correct?
Do you mean not oil as in like linseed oil?
Like, so you painted some white and some other stuff with linseed oil, so you made it fatter, and then you went on over it with just paint straight from the tube, like the white, to have a little bit thicker. And so in that case,
okay,
that's leaner because it's straight from the tube, right? So,
yeah.
But that doesn't matter because it's alla prima and it's all one time.
So I am sure that I added linseed oil to the thicker layers, and it wasn't just
Okay.
tube. It depends on the brand, Stacey. Like some oil paint is viscous.
Okay.
I'll tell you from the, you know, this is sort of old information now. There's going to be newer brands, but Van Gogh oil paint, it's a beautiful paint. Same with M Graham as well. So Van Gogh and M Graham, their oil paint is incredibly viscous and thin. So it doesn't have, it's creamy, it's buttery, like melted butter in the summer, not melted, but like warm butter in the summer.
Right.
And then there's some brands that are remarkably stiffer just out of the tube. So it totally depends. It would not be something unless you were taking the tube and putting it right on for a stiff oil to feel nice to paint with. Like it would just, it wouldn't move. Like it'll be dragging.
Right.
So I'd say it depends on the brand. And does it matter if you use something straight out of the tube on top of something oily? I guess it depends on how thick it is. And if you're if you're mixing it together. So if you do like a layer alla prima and it's really oily and you go to take something out of the tube and you're putting it on top, it's kind of mixing in with it. Like you're kind of mixing it in with the oil. So I don't think it's a problem just simply because of how those collide.
Right. And that's what I was wanted to reaffirm or confirm that, you know, when you're painting alla prima, things just kind of, you know, mesh together.
Layer. Yeah.
And it's, you know, and then so you don't have to worry as much about it as you would like glazing. Okay.
It sounds like comparing to acrylic, like liquid acrylics and heavy body, like if you add more of the medium or the polymer, like not the gel, but the liquid polymer, then you get more like fluid, right? Is that kind of a good analogy?
100% exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oil paint doesn't come in both of those viscosities, and so whereas the polymer is what acrylic's made out of, the linseed oil is what it's made out of. And you can add too much oil. You really can. If you added just a tiny bit of pigment to a lot of oil yellows, and it doesn't quite dry in the same way if you're just like leaving out a whole puddle of oil. I've tested that myself, and it's actually pretty gross. Like it looks stained. It looks wrong. You can also use too much odorless mineral spirits. I've seen people use, like, again, just the tiniest little bit of pigment and washing it, you know, and letting it drip and whatnot. And I guess those are people who are experimental. They don't care. And I support that 100%. But I think, say you wanted to do a whole bunch of really thin watery washes, I would use acrylics first because that's going to dry. And then you can paint oil over top of it instead of trying to like really push your oils to the point where like odorless mineral spirits totally dissolves the binder. Like, so the pigment is just sort of floating around, and it's not necessarily staining in the same way as watercolor on paper would, because there's a gesso barrier. So I think if you ever see because it's on TikTok, I've seen this, you know, particular video a few times where someone's like, you can use oils really thin like this, and it's like literally like water. And I'm like, sure you can, but there's probably better ways for that.
And it's so expensive. Like this oil paint, like the artist quality, it's so expensive.
It's what? Did you say?
Sorry, I'm like way over here. It's so expensive. Like the oil paint, like the artist quality. I'm looking at the difference in the. I'm like, oh my god, it's 4 times the money for the artist quality. So yes, solvent and oil, please.
Absolutely. Okay. I want to show you guys something on Photoshop. And so we're going to look at the reference photo here. Bring on the questions as they come. Now, in the future, I'm aiming for you to do this visual that I'm going to show you with your own eyes and decipher the color layers without the need for Photoshop. But I thought this could be something to just give us an idea of why I chose yellow. And I only really looked at this yesterday. I'm sorry I didn't send out an email going like, get your yellow paints out. So let me see here. I'm going to share. Why isn't this? There. Okay, there's the natural. This is what the reference photo really looks like. What I remember it to be. So I've taken the photo and I have changed the saturation just to show the intensity of each color and how much there is. So this is yellow. I guess I accidentally took out some of that grass in the front, so ignore that. That's supposed to be yellow. Like the yellow green that's there. But you can see there's so much yellow. Like, you know, I've just pushed just yellow to high saturation there. This is just pushing the blue So you can see there's quite a lot of blue in the background and in the shadows. This is pushing just red.
Hmm.
And so this dances around. There is definitely some in the background because of, that's where the sun is also hitting, like that tree in behind this one. But even though it's all around in little dancing spots, it's not just in constant, like a concentrated area. So in my mind, I'm saying red would be the last layer, because then you've built up your yellows and your shadows, and the red is now working with those. And then I thought, let's just look at green, because we might just want to get out a Viridian green as well next week when we focus on blue. So it could be like blue and a green that you have, because there's some areas where it's pretty vibrant green. And since we have wonderful intense pigments, probably everyone has like a Viridian or a phthalo green in your set, it would be nice to kind of just push that individually. But yellow is really almost everywhere. So that's my suggestion to start today.
So, Shar, can I ask a question there?
Yeah.
I thought a general rule was to start with the darker colors and then kind of get lighter. So, I mean, I just explain that to me.
With any kind of glazing, whether it's acrylic, watercolor, or oil, it's important to start with the lighter colors first.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. If you start with the dark colors first, you'll get too dark too quick. Very easy.
Yeah. Okay. Does that mean, I mean, at the end, when you're doing highlighting and stuff like that, you can go back and use lighter colors again then? Is that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
fine. All right. That makes sense then.
So today we're going to go in and do yellow. Yellow is inherently semi-opaque at best. But if, you know, for example, I put out some yellow ochre, that is opaque. I'm going to push to thin that color so that it is transparent to semi-opaque. We don't want to cover anything here today. We want to add a transparent glaze. So semi-opaque at best. And that's where thinning resolves that for us. So using that 1-to-1 ratio with alkyd and oil. So
do you mix it into your paint first and then paint, or do you kind of just dab it and then into your paint and then?
Oh, definitely. Here, I'll bring this to the palette. So okay, so this is the oil that I have. I believe this is stand oil, which just dries slower. It's a bit thicker, but because I got it from the factory, I can't remember, like there's no label on it. So it is what it is. It's what I have. Just gonna get this out. You see the rules you can break already? I don't even know what oil I'm using. It's oil, that's what matters. So I'm gonna put out some oil there. I'm gonna put out some alkyd. Like a little pot. Mine is dirty, but you can get these little metal cups. They usually have, this isn't from the art store, but it's a similar thing where it has a little lip on the bottom that's supposed to attach to your palette. That's for oil and alkyd medium. If you see those at the art store, they're probably like $5 these days. It's metal, so that's making it easier to clean, so that it's not just a little mess like this in your palette. Told ya, I have bad studio habits. Okay, so fairly large brush. I'm going to start with my medium. So if you only have one yellow, that's fine. So I'm going to start with Indian yellow, and I'm going to pull this medium into my swatch so that it feels thin and viscous and I can see the transparency.
So you're putting the medium into it with a large brush, right?
Yes. And I'm gonna like just look at the largest area of the reference, which is the left side for the most part. Just got this pinned up here. Okay, so now I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna, you know, as we've done in lots of classes where it's, whether it's drawing or other kinds of painting, with a very painterly stroke to move that yellow in and around, going slow. I don't want to, you know, just go, oh shoot, I went, you know, into this area. So I'm kind of bouncing my eye back and forth from the reference over. And the great thing about this is say you put yellow here and you're like, oops, I didn't mean to do that. You can take your rag and you can pull it back.
Shar, what was your mixture of the oil and alkyd to paint? What was it, like 50-50 again?
It's impossible to give you a perfect ratio for that because we all have different brands. So I dip my brush into the medium that I've created, and then I pull into my pot of color until I get the right consistency, which is something that feels right, but also is transparent because we're not kind of covering up anything here.
Okay.
And to remove, now this, I have never used oil paper. That's actually like a pretty new thing in the world. So I actually am a bit worried about that absorbency, Irene. But if you need to remove, say, like this is still stained a little bit with yellow and I don't, let's just say I don't want that there, okay? I can either use oil on a rag or I can use odorless mineral spirits and then pull that off and really scrub.
The metal cup for mixing the, you know, the alkyd and the oil. Like I just have another well on my plastic palette. Can you mix it in there? You have to wipe it all out after?
Oh yeah, especially with plastic, yeah.
Yeah, I just okay.
Actually, oil is so gross when if you don't wash it out. That's what happened with this. This is why I'm not using it. There's oil in here, so it doesn't matter if it's plastic or it's really gross to clean out.
Okay. Well, the solvent, yeah, well, I'm finding the solvent. I have a bit of acrylic stuff on the bottom, and it's like the solvent is moving the acrylic pieces. Ugh, mess.
Yeah, it's melting the plastic.
Oh, great. So okay.
Yeah, so a wooden palette, paper palette that's waxed, tin foil, a metal, something that's metal. So a lot of people put their odorless solvents in a mason jar, and then you can just dip in as you need it.
Okay, all right. So I guess I've got to find a way to, well, I guess I'll clean this plastic palette with linseed soap after. And just,
yeah, are you using your non-stick acrylic palette?
well, I'm putting oil paper on it and putting the paint on that, but I wanted a place to put the solvent so I could dip into it.
Okay.
So that's
yeah, that cheap little plastic watercolor well palette, is that what you're putting?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, that's fine. You can put it in there for the class, but definitely wipe it out after.
Yeah, like it's actually this part I put it in.
Okay.
See, so I'm just trying to go around the bits of acrylic that it's solubilizing now.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Okay, so you can just to extend your color even more, we were talking about how it's expensive. You can take your rag and you can also move around a very thin layer so that you're just gently going slow.
Okay.
So as just like last week, a rag for oil painting and especially glazing is a really big tool. It's a fantastic tool. So I'm going to look at the fact that I'm using an Indian yellow. I'm going to start using that sort of in the shadowed areas because it's a darker yellow. Again, going slow. Like I'm not going to go over the tree trunks because I don't see much need, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I think when you showed the picture, it looked like there was a little yellow in there in the tree trunk shot.
Yeah, it actually looks green to me.
Is it?
Yeah.
But that is the printout, and I'd say
No, I was talking about when you showed us the one where you highlighted the yellows.
oh, I see, right? Yeah, on the right side, it's like pasted light, like reflected light. Yeah. So thinking ahead, wherever you put yellow today, next week you can leave areas that are yellow, or where you put blue over top, it's going to turn green. So you're exaggerating in your mind. Any areas that are green will also have yellow. And I'm trying to consider where the blue is going to go so that I'm definitely not putting yellow over top of that because that's going to turn green and I want a blue sky. So your negative space is important today.
This requires a lot of thinking. I'm glad I waited years to start.
When I've been meaning to start oil painting for a while, and the more I researched mediums, solvents, techniques actually in general, the more intimidating it got. Yeah, it's it's pretty crazy.
And then there's die-hard oil painters, and then there's modern oil painters. The modern ones break a lot of rules. There's paint sticks too, which are very cool. I'll show you those because I separated them out over the holidays, and basically all it is oil paint in a stick, and instead of it being in a tube casing, its own natural film is what keeps it together. Here, while I'm talking about it, I'll just show it now.
When you're like, when you're all done, you're reevaluating, like at the very end. I'm sure you could then go back in, like say you want a few more branches here or there, like,
Yep.
right? That comes forward. Yeah. Okay.
You can also do opaque colors. So if we don't get all of those sky blues today, which we probably won't, at the very end, that's when you can go in with an opaque and like baby blue, sky blue, or whatever, and tickle those in the areas that you want.
Okay.
So this is a paint stick. It's in a wrapper here. Do I have one that's not? Oh, this. Okay, so this is a paint stick. And what you do is you peel off the skin here. Usually this casing comes off eventually, like, sort of like keeping your wrappers on soft pastels is impossible. But what you do is you peel, I'm not going to do it right now, but you peel off the skin and then you get this beautiful, luscious oil paint inside. And so you can use this to actually draw. Straight from the tube, and then either paint into it or like apply a really thick amount of it. I thought I'd show you what oil looks like on its own when we were talking about just adding too much oil. This is a colorless blender, so it actually is like a medium. And this is the skin. I just want you to see how brown that is. That's the oil skin. It's literally how oil browns over time, no matter what. It's disgusting. Sorry. But in all honesty, it's like a really disgusting skin. And actually, I will peel it off for you. That's what it's like underneath. So just to get a sense of how dark oil browns.
What? Oh, colorless blender. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
If it browns so much, why do people use oil paint?
So nowadays, well, I mean, well, back then, that's all they had. You know, that was their, as in the timeless, like what's been around for a really long time. But now we have like different types of options. And that's why there are different types of oils. So stand oil yellows the most. Walnut oil and safflower oil yellow the least. Here's safflower oil. I have a green tape on it, but see how clear it is?
Oh yeah.
So but this dries really, really, really slow. And so you just need to be kind of aware of that it's a thin oil, it's a lean oil, but it dries really slow. And so, yeah, over time you like get into what you like, what suits the process. And so I think that's maybe where instead of being intimidated, at least now you know some basics, that it's a lot of it is personal preference in the end. I guess like acrylic mediums, you don't use them all. You choose to use what you like. I love walnut oil. It's my favorite. It's just sort of like super neutral, and it doesn't seem to bother me in the same way that other oils do, because they also have their own smells as well. Oops. So if you're using various yellows, just bounce around to see what you like better. Mine are so very close in a way, but in the sunlit patch on the ground, you want to leave space for the red, or else you'll get orange. So I'm doing like a bit of a basket weave stroke because I do like that stroke. So there are no way I'm spotting red around like in the actual photo. I'll just do a couple here and there.
Where I've got some of the darker browns from last week, where I put yellow in, it looks green now.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's like your light green.
Yeah.
Yeah, my yellow ochre is it's greenish, right? So I'm noticing that too, same thing.
Char, do you do any are you doing any, how would I say, detail with the yellow?
You say detail like little
Leaves or
strokes?
yeah, strokes, cross hatching, like I don't know how you call it, but
Yes. Yes, I am.
use a smaller brush for that.
I mean, you can. I'm just using sort of the corner of my bright,
Yeah.
but I'm on a 16 by 20, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I just thought I'm going to put out some white and talk about this foreground area because it's okay to use a bit of white today. Just adjusting your value. And because white obviously makes it a little bit more opaque, I'm still going to use medium to create a semi-opaque. Just to, so that you can still see through. And so it's not going to ever cover the burnt sienna, or sorry, burnt umber, such as in here. So, okay, so if I go over, this is with the semi-opaque. So it's creating like almost like a zinc white situation. So if there's any areas that are a little too dark for you, you can come in with that semi-opaque to tone it down or tint it down, tint it up.
Are you still using, I guess, what kind of brush are you using? Is it soft or is it a?
Mm. Mine's like in the middle. It's like it's not a stiff bristle, but it's definitely it's not. It's in the middle.
Okay.
I think softer is probably better than the bristle, but they would both work. So the bristle you can really scumble it into the weave.
So if we just use the paint straight, that would be considered leaner than adding.
Yes. I knew what you were going to ask.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. If you use your paint tube as a gauge, like, you know, whatever is raw in the tube is like your middle, adding anything to it that's oil will make it fatter. But actually adding solvents makes it leaner than what it would be out of the tube as well. So solvent is lean and oil is fat.
I'm just thinking like if we have a transparent color,
Yeah.
we don't need to add the medium plus.
Well, I would probably say you do. And again, I've never used Cobra and it sounds like it might have like a good viscosity to it. But, you know, transparent colors in professional lines have mass tone, you know, so heavily, densely pigmented. So usually you do want to extend it. Just like if I took a big swab here of Indian yellow, it has coverage. So, you know, it's a transparent pigment, but you actually want to, I think, push that transparency. But you gauge that as you're working with it and what you're seeing. Like if you use water, I know that I was like, you know, use the solvents that Cobra makes, but if you use water, that's leaner.
Right. I'm finding I'm not liking the water mixed in with the mediums because it froths.
Oh.
And it's drippy on the canvas.
Right. It froths, huh? So
I guess that's how I would describe it.
Oh, I believe you. It's just such a weird, it was such a weird experience. It's to like, you know.
Yeah, like maybe maybe I learned to like it, but right now I'm not liking it, so.
Oh, I don't think you need to learn to like it. No.
So are you getting green from just the yellows you're using, or did you use a little blue in the?
No blue right now. Now, okay, I do want to have this little convo. If you wanted to not do this glazing process, you wanted to just do an underpainting, which is traditional no matter what. People love doing them because it sets out your composition and your values. We talked about how you can do an underpainting in any color you want. You can do black and white or all in red. It's all a personal preference. Something for a landscape brown makes sense as a base. But if you wanted to just go in with glazes, you can mix your green, you can mix your orange. This is a very specific process of doing one color at a time. It is its own traditional approach to glazing, but there are other ways you can glaze where you mix your color first and add it in and build up. So I mean, maybe depending on time, because we'll probably have the time, we can go in and add some blue, but it'll be mixing in with the yellow. So I want to at least leave some areas where it's going to dry, and then we have the experience of bringing in blue next week. Just depending on how things go today, that's what I would like, because it's really magical.
You know what's really I find shocking is how little paint you need. You really don't need much paint at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I'm absolutely getting like this chartreuse green with this lemon yellow that I have.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay.
That's the magic.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I won't need green.
Well, when you might not, and when we talk about if this gets into color theory, what blue to use over what area to get what you want. So in the foreground, it's going to be a cool blue, and in some of parts of the tree, it'll be maybe a more neutral or a warmer. And so we'll have to play with that. It'll be a bit of a test because there's no, I mean, every reference will be a bit different. We're going to be looking for temperature. That's another reason why this method of glazing is really lovely. Once the yellow dries and you are testing different blues, you can wipe off if it's not the right one. But if we just start adding blue right now and mixing, and you're like, oh, that's not right. You have to pull everything off.
It's so I'm finding it like unbelievably vivid wherever I have put my umber, my particular burnt umber. I put the lemon yellow over top, and it's bright green.
It's awesome.
Well, we'll see how awesome it is in the end.
Oh yeah, well, that's the thing though, is like, it's going to change. Like you can even use a very transparent red to tone it down.
Oh, yes, right, because it's green. Yeah. Okay.
Or even a really diluted black, like a lamp black, which is transparent. It's inherently transparent and warm. It could also chill out a lime green. My lighting is now, yeah, now I'm seeing the green. Yeah, it's beautiful. I don't think my lighting is as good right now for seeing the color because they're like these bright LED things. But yeah, I'm using a lighter yellow in the foreground and it is chartreuse. So there's the magic. I don't think I'm even capturing that on video. Yeah.
There you come.
Deli.
Being a pesky.
Is she?
Yeah.
I'd also suggest to try and keep your strokes soft, which kind of comes with thin layers anyway, but just that we don't need any, like detail is one thing, but you just don't need any ridges or hard edges.
That's one thing I'm finding, like my brush strokes, they're ridged up, at the end, on the side of the brush. So I'm not sure if it's the paint, the brush, or the medium.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's start with just changing one thing and just change your brush to a soft brush because you've asked me that and
well, I did, like I've changed. So this is the second brush I'm using. So
okay. And it's still happening?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a character of the paint mine. Like maybe this paint works better a la prima.
Oh, shouldn't matter. Now, perhaps you need more medium. Try that. I know it's tough over video, but if anyone wants to check in at any time, please just ask and we'll do what we can to explain subtleties or pointing pointing at things if you're not sure.
Yeah, so like, can you see, I put more medium. I don't know if you can see the stroke. Can you see that stroke?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's too thick.
That's a lot of medium though. Like that's,
I see.
it's very runny and
Mhm.
it'll almost drip down the paint
Okay,
or
so
drip down the canvas.
pull some off. You can, just wipe off your brush and pull some off. And so it might not have the coverage you're looking for, and that's, I'd say, better to go slow with more transparency now, and don't worry about having coverage at all as an opacity.
And I guess I don't mind the brush strokes,
Mhm.
but does it work for this glazing technique is?
Okay, can you put that by the canvas again? By the camera, sorry. I just want to see what that looks like.
I smoothed it out with the,
Yeah, that smoothed out area, which you had initially shown me, that looks better, what you have.
okay.
Yeah. Like, Stacey, I can't even see the yellow that I put on the tree. It's there though. So
Okay.
I think because you're looking at value right now, that actually is a change in value and it's perfect.
Okay.
You don't want it thick. So if you go to make a stroke and it's really juicy, then you clean off your brush and you wipe away the excess. I think using less medium and having more opaque is probably not what we want right now.
Okay.
So you can try a little less, like from what you were using before, you can try less medium and just see, but we're not looking to completely cover those areas, which is to me with the juicy, like, the paint outside of the stroke on the edges, that seemed to me to be too opaque.
Okay. And again, I don't know if it's also because of the water, because it's milky.
Oh.
So here is the medium plus water, and it's supposed to be milky, like when I watched the video from the Cobra manufacturer.
So hold on, show that again. Okay.
So it's milky, it's thin, like, so
okay.
you can. So I don't know if that's part of being like, if that is the milkiness of the medium and it's going to dry differently. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, yeah, it will dry differently. Yeah.
But like, I feel like I'm done now. Like, is there something else I could do? And honestly, between the three different yellows, I don't see much of a difference.
I understand. Same. I only see a difference between the yellow ochre on mine and then the light one. The medium one didn't. And so that has just, now we know these are, if I was to set my palette for glazing in the future, it would be my cad yellow medium and a yellow ochre, because the Indian yellow didn't really, show me much difference. And then the Indian yellow can be used later if something's not yellow enough. So I think we're just establishing palettes. And yes, you are, you're ready to go to the next step. And I knew this would happen with this class, is that some of the stages are quick. But we'll talk about blue. I'll catch up.
Okay.
Is anyone else almost done the yellow stage? Just raise your hand so I can see.
I'm kind of.
Yeah.
Did you say yes, Tony?
Yeah, I'm kind of enjoying doing a little bit of detail with the yellow here. So I'm just kind of whittling away at this. I like it.
Okay.
Detail, how are you getting detail?
I mean, I can show you guys in a minute.
He's on a larger canvas, Stacey.
He's on
He's
what?
on a
Sorry?
He's on a
larger.
He's on a 16 by 20. That's why. Maybe we could do red today. Actually, red would be nice, I think, instead of blue. I really would like to push blue next week. But we're talking this through with this reference photo. So please, lend your opinion or your thoughts anytime. Sorry, Irene, what were you going to say?
I'm just amazed. I don't know how my burnt umber and my yellow are giving me chartreuse. Like, is there something I'm missing here? Maybe
Okay.
the combination, because my burnt umber is very like dark brown. Like,
Yes.
it's not reddish, but like I know red and yellow will give me an orange, but where's the green coming from? There's no blue. Is there like an undertone of blue in this burnt umber? Like,
umber is green.
Burnt umber is a cool brown. So yes, it does have an element of not blue, but it's cool. So I think this falls into the same category as black and yellow make green.
okay, all right.
I did notice when you posted the photo of yours that your burnt umber seemed to look a little green already.
Yeah, it's cool. It's already cool, right? Like, oh, okay. But yeah, I guess I'm just like, what the heck is going on? Because in acrylic, my burnt umber is red, but it could be that pigment.
Your burnt umber is on the red side in acrylic?
Mine is, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed it's different in oil. Yeah.
Because burnt sienna is red and burnt umber is cool, like typically.
Yeah, my burnt umber is more red in acrylic, and then I have my raw umber definitely is like a greenish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I keep thinking, oh, I have to preserve these sky holes, but actually, if you look at your reference, there's just so much more. So let's also just take a minute to note that in the essence of, you could, I'd say for a smaller work, and Stacey, this is what you're experiencing. I don't know if Alec, if you are too, that really, if you did not have a lot of detail in your Brunei, or your underpainting, then you're kind of doing almost an all over wash of yellow with, just consideration of not putting it in certain spots.
Yep.
So just in that light, that's also another use of glazing, is that some people will do a Brunei and then they will do a whole over glaze of something. It could be anything, red. Usually it's yellow or red. It's on the warm spectrum of things, because adding cool over top easily changes it. Again, starting lighter to dark, but yeah, no, it's actually, even at the end of painting something, if say for whatever reason it all turned out to be too cool, you could do a whole all over Indian yellow glaze. Indian yellow is very famous for that, just to warm things up. And so yeah, how much you add, where you add it really makes a difference.
So at the end, to get all the little white spots, if we don't have it in our painting now, we can go over with just like sky blue color and dab it in, right?
Yeah. And Stacey, the thing is it will look different because, you build up all these juicy glazes, and that's why glazes are lovely, is that they're jewel tones because you're pushing that transparency. Again, that doesn't matter what paint you're using, but That's what glazes are for. And so if you come in, when we do come in, because all of us at the end will be adding more opaque details, you'll see that it has a different feeling. And I'll remind us at that time to kind of, again, go in with intent on your edges, whether it's a hard edge or a soft edge, because it'll be very clearly different with that addition of white.
I'm not even worrying about the sky holes anymore. I was like, so like, oh, a part here, a part there, and it's looking like a patchwork quilt. So I'm not doing that anymore. I'll just do it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we try and put in some like white right now,
It'll turn light yellow.
Right, and subsequent glazes would help.
Okay, I guess what I could say is if this yellow dries quickly because you've used a bit of alkyd and it's a really thin layer, then you can go in and add white over top. So that when you get to the blue, you can just glaze the blue over. I would love for us to actually play with the glaze instead of mixing a blue, but I mean, it's your painting, you get to choose. I will show you right now. I will get out a blue because I've left my sky holes, and I will show you what it'll look like, the difference. But give me a minute because this tube is so old. Okay. Oh, actually, it's good. It's actually good. Yay. Okay. So small. I'm going to come in close here. As close as I can. Okay. All right, here we go. Just looking at just blue. So I'm adding some medium and with French ultramarine. And instead of adding white, I'm going in over top of the white areas. All right. And then I am going to just see what that looks like, very thin.
Is alkyd medium flammable, Sean? Just out of interest?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. It does have solvent in it.
Yeah, I can smell it.
Yeah. It's combustible, baby.
Combustible. All right.
Is oil paint on its own combustible?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
What about what's left on the palette, like in terms of oil? Let's say you want to use it like tomorrow or whatever. Can you just leave that on your palette? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not gonna like light my house on fire, but
No, I mean, that's not nearly enough. Like there's oil painters who leave gobs and gobs and gobs of oil paint out there. I don't know all the variables for that. It'd be something interesting to look into. But out of all types of painters, the painters who have, lost a studio due to a fire they're all oil painters. unless it was, some sort of other reason why they had a fire.
There was a massive fire in Minneapolis, I was reading, 38-story building, and painters' rags.
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and it nearly took the whole building down.
Yeah. Seriously, when I say dry out your rags, it's the best thing. Unless you like Alec get, a actual bin for it. So there's blue on the white.
Mm.
Now I'm going to come in as close as I can, and I'll just do a bit of blue with actual white so you can see the difference. And again, there's no problem. It doesn't matter. It's just two different approaches, especially like you can still at the end use opaque, this mixed blue, but it has a different feeling than this. And you might like it, you might prefer it. So here you can actually see the transparency of like my initial underpainting. Maybe you don't like that. So there's nothing wrong with coming in with opaque or semi-opaque colors at all. Just if you have some white, it's kind of nice to see that optical mixing. So glazing and opaque.
And it's too late to go in and add little bits of white now?
It's not, but I would wait for the yellow to dry.
So did you suggest doing red if we've done with the yellow?
Yeah, so let's do that because I honestly think it's I mean, at first I almost washed my brush with water. Boo. This morning I was thinking to go in with blue and just little hints of it. So we could do a bit of both. As we do still have over an hour. I'll tell you where I thought we could do the blue. And of course you can also wipe away the yellow, right? I was thinking, oh, let me share that screen because that Photoshop version really showed it. There. So just back in that whole, that background area, there's a lot of blue, and then in the upper right, and then in the lower left. I want to glaze the tree area personally, but I think especially in that background, that would be cool to do today because there was, at least on mine, I didn't have any yellow there.
But if your yellow is not dry, then you can't, right? Like,
you'll get a green glaze, and so if you want to see what that looks like, go for it. But let's just leave some of the yellow so that we can optically glaze as well next week.
okay.
So I've got a French ultramarine, and I'm gonna put out a bit of Prussian just to see. I don't know which is best for me and what I want. But I'm so sorry, I have to dig into this tube. It's potent. Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Oh, Prussian blue is gorgeous.
That's shy. Hang on, let's have a look.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I hate painting with it though. I refuse to paint with it.
What
In
is it?
In acrylic, I don't like it. This is ultramarine. Oops, sorry. Here. It's a
Where's
reddish.
the,
Oh,
it's not on.
thank you. So this is ultramarine here, which is a reddish blue.
Mhm.
And this is Prussian blue, which is a greenish.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
But does it do the funky thing it does in acrylic? About fading in the light and then you put it in the dark and then you can get it back out and it's
With the sky, and that this would also be ultramarine blue. Now that I've put ultramarine blue in the sky and it looks nice, that I'm going to try the Prussian blue down in here in because it's cool. So this is in the shadows. So I'm going to come in. I want to see the mix with the yellow. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So this is, again, a personal thing. You can go in and have your strokes, and that's where you're getting detail. Or you can rag out, and so it's very, very, very soft and kind of as thin as possible. I'm not going to do this whole area because I want to work next week on it, but you see that yellow? Let me get a little closer. There. So that's with Prussian blue added. And it's a very different blue than the ultramarine.
So it's like a dark green. It's hard for me to see because of my light, but it's like a dark green, right?
It to me is making like depending on the concentration of the mix, it's moving from like an emerald to a turquoise.
Hmm.
Like this well, that's actually over white. So this little stroke here to me looks very turquoise-ish because it was not mixed with yellow. Well, a little bit. Okay, let's maybe just use that over white and see what this looks like. Okay, this is Prussian blue with no yellow.
Oh, it's turquoise.
Yeah,
Oh.
That's Prussian blue.
oh,
this is Prussian blue with no yellow. I just put it over a white spot and I wiped it off. So if I don't wipe it off, it's a very, very, very strong pigment. Give me another. Okay, I'll do it here.
So sure, if you, I've only got ultramarine blue,
Yeah.
I wanted to put kind of get a more that kind of Prussian yellow out of it. What would be the mix for that? Little, I'm thinking a little bit of, I don't even know, maybe a little bit of yellow.
Um, well, try it into the yellow in one area first. And if you
Yeah.
need more yellow, yes, but you might not.
I have a Corellian blue as well.
I would use that for the sky
Yeah.
and your ultramarine in the front grass, foreground.
Let's try that. True.
Cerulean is really one of the greatest colors for sky. Let's see if I have that actually. I'll look next week for it.
Interestingly. I just opened my ultramarine blue paint tube and this clear liquid, I guess vegetable oil came out.
Linseed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can't, you can, well, you can put that on your palette and use it to mix it together.
Okay, I have to take a short break to get some water. I'm dehydrated.
Good, hydrate your body. What's, who's that, Posey? Be right back. So here I've added some French ultramarine to my, distant mid ground, and it's too strong. So instead of adding white, I'm just going to wipe it. And to me, that creates a lighter blue because of the underpainting. So if you put down a color and it's too rich, before trying to think about mixing, just see if oiling that out makes the difference that you want. So for myself, I'm going to focus more on the places that are white on my canvas, but I know that it might not be something you can do if you didn't have many white spots. So please give it a shot to pull up some yellow before adding blue in some areas. And if you still didn't have enough white, that's fine. Then move on to just doing some key blue areas, background, sky.
Can we add some white areas right now and work on the blue next week?
Yes, but if you're where you want the white areas, if there's already yellow there, it'll turn green. Unless you can really pull it up. So if you can't pull up the yellow, then I would wait for the yellow to dry and then add the white. I really love using a rag because it creates such atmosphere at this stage, like especially in the background. I think this is a good example of a glaze versus, this is the same blue, Prussian blue. This is a glaze over white, and this is using Prussian blue mixed in with the yellow. And so I'd have to add white to get anything like that. And that's just like a really good example of why you would choose one or the other. Since we have time, I'm personally like sort of getting lost in, coming up with a pattern for the leaves. So wherever you're getting lost, and that's great. I would lean into it.
I like that, the way you said that, the getting lost for sure.
Yeah, right. Like you're in Japan right now.
Yeah.
And so this is, a good time to play and just see, how painting wet into wet can feel. So
Yeah, I'm agree with that, Shah. It's interesting.
yeah, go ahead and add a little bit of white or whatever. Just like, here I am. I just want to share that whole layering of glazing, but at some point, it's kind of cool just to, I think you're all here for that softness, that blending, which is like, are you feeling it? You feeling how lovely that, because I'm like, I like thin paint in this, in any medium. So I'm just like loving making one stroke and seeing how it just automatically blends. It's exciting.
Did you bring in any red, Char?
Sneaky. I just had to
Okay.
open this. I just thought I'd show, there's such little amounts. I'm bringing in alizarin crimson because that to me is exactly what those flowers are. Oh, and by the way, when I was like, oh, it might be this certain tree. Here, let me look. What was the name of that? I said it might be a Japanese camellia.
Yeah.
The reason I'm not sure is because camellia, when you look it up, it says it's a type of bush, and yet the flowers are identical. So I'm just not sure if these trees have just been around for that long. I tried to look up camellia tree, and I saw some things that looked maybe similar, but it just wasn't affirming. So I'm not sure. But if you look up a camellia flower, then it might give you an idea of, well, actually I have them. Because I think it's important to sort of think about that when you're going in to do these little dots of red. Oh. Sorry. Hmm. Okay. It has to be a camellia here.
You researching the tree shop?
Well, for for obvious reasons, I really wanted to find my own photo that I took. It's just like
Yeah.
I was there, but this is what the flower looks like.
Right.
Oh, pretty.
Ooh. Okay.
And I had only taken a photo of them all on the ground because, you know, they were just scattered everywhere. And so that's maybe I'll send that to you just for shits and giggles. But, you know, to me, it was very interesting. It's not that I saw them in the tree so much. It was just like the ground was really scattered with them. I haven't really looked up much more about them. Like, why were they in bloom in February? Why were they dropping off the tree already? So maybe they are winter trees. Maybe they blossomed early because it was unusually unseasonably warm.
That does sound like camellia. They're supposed to be winter flowers.
Okay,
Ah,
that's so cool. The leaves seem very waxy. Do you know, Alec, do they keep their leaves all winter too?
I believe so.
Hey, that's really cool.
What's the word for that? The leaves that keep their leaves all winter. The word for it. No,
Well, I only knew coniferous, like evergreens did.
green, yeah.
I
Oaks, there are some oaks. Home oaks in England keep their leaves
Ah,
time as well.
and I guess if camellia is considered a bush, then a lot of bushes actually like keep their leaves. Okay, so I'm going to spotlight and come in with a bit of alizarin crimson. So personally, I'm thinking about that, you know, everything on here is wet, and so whatever I add is going to be a mix. I again, I'm going to leave some areas at maybe next week to layer without it mixing because it does present a different result. But to come in with the alizarin, which I think is the perfect color for these flowers. And I want to do this expressively myself. I don't want to go in and just dab a whole bunch. That's never been something I'm attracted to. So I want to show that there's like a bunch in a row and a mass of them over here. And I'm positive it'll translate when there's a couple of shots of red in the tree.
Are you using any glazing medium?
Yes. And at this stage, I really like wiping out so that it's very, very, very thin, knowing that I can always come in and add more. But I like the look of oiling out. Oh, okay, this is a good opportunity. So I put a color where I actually don't want it. Irene, you really have to, for my sake too, test that paper and see how. So this is just pure oil that I'm rubbing on, and I'm taking it as much as I can off. Because I actually wanted blue there.
Yeah, I've come to the conclusion about this paper. Like, I think for plein air studies, this would be great, but yeah.
I was thinking that it's hopeful as you build up a layer that you're creating sort of a film.
I think with like oil pastels and solvent, like a plein air, it would be fine,
Okay.
be better. But it's really hard. Like I'm putting like a lot of oil on to try to lift, and it's hard. It's like super hard.
Hard and impossible, or
Verging on impossible.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's okay.
So in that case, I would start to use more opaque and just to cover.
Mhm.
So All right, I would like to ask if anyone wants to check in. We're at 12, just like talk about what you can do in the next, what you might consider doing in the next half an hour.
Want to check in, Shar?
Mm.
Okay. I haven't hit any reds yet.
Okay. The alizarin crimson goes really nicely over the brown, even yellow.
Okay.
Just saying when you get there. Fabulous. Look at all those
Oh, wow. Mhm.
details. Okay, so you've just where's the blue? I can't see if you brought that in.
I haven't really put any blue in.
Okay.
Wow.
That'll be my next thing, is get the blues and the little touches of light in there. And I think the blue would be next, right? And that
You
in
know,
those negative spaces you can see.
now that I've put in some red, I would do the red, and you could do it now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then next week blue would be great. I'm guessing you have alizarin crimson because it's pretty common in a set.
No, I didn't really get a set, but let me see what I got.
Oh, right. Oh, you just bought individuals. Okay.
Right, I got cadmium red. Yeah. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, what's it called?
Alizarin crimson.
Yeah, I got it.
Perfect. So you can scrub out because it'll, turn a little bit warmer. Alizarin crimson is a cool wine color, red wine color.
Yeah.
So you could, if there's an area you really, pardon me, you really want it to be, it's because it's kind of pinkish when you apply it like a glaze.
Mhm.
You can, if there's any areas where you have yellow and you're like, oh, I'd really like this to be the pinkish undertone, you can take a little Q-tip and just oil out a little area.
Right.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Wow.
So I think just like because of who we individually are, depending on how you like that underpainting, and as you explore that more, because I know you all, and I don't think that it's a common thing to do underpaintings. Let me know if I'm wrong, but there's so much potential just there alone.
Yeah. I've done underpaintings on just about every piece I've done with the acrylic stuff, right? I really love underpaintings.
Well, in that piece you did for Trina, because it was so grayscale, that's basically what they call a grisaille, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I know there was other shifts, but it was so subtle because it was like a winter moody piece.
I mean, I guess I don't think I realized what I was really doing, but at the time, but I mean, that was glazing.
Mm-hmm.
Layer upon layer upon layer, building up acrylics.
Can I check in?
Yes, yes.
Now that I added red, I think I've turned this into a mortar scene.
Okay, your sky is stunning. Your sky and your sky holes are fantastic. I love the shape of the tree, Alec. I am feeling that the red is like, I actually like the more concentrated area, which you're probably going like, that's where she died. And then walked away to the left out of the scene. But I actually think I would smudge out the left individual little bits just to soften them out. You can refine them as you go. I think having it more the softer, larger area, that's what I would do. Any feedback for Alec? It's funny.
Maybe soften some of the areas between the sky and the tree. Because you have like soft areas on the the foreground,
Mm.
but everything in the tree is like individual. Like there's the sky, there's the tree, there's the branches.
There's hard edges. Is that what you
Yeah.
mean? It looks a
Yeah,
bit,
so like there's soft edges in the foreground, but everything or a lot of the stuff in the tree is hard edges.
I would flip that if you know, for whatever our opinions are worth, I would bring more detail into the foreground.
Okay. Yeah, they just mesh.
Yeah. Yeah. Take lead from your tree.
Mhm.
And this is a good time, Alec, to bring in, you can even bring in burnt umber into the foreground to create very specific details.
Okay.
And that's maybe where you know, putting in the red is like, right now I'm not getting the sense of that grand shadow that is, you know, that whole bottom left corner. And I don't even have it developed either. But I think when that happens and you have a sense of that hill, the red will make more sense. So I think at this point, we tried to bring it in. I mean, even I've just stopped because I don't want to push it today. But I think I would take a rag and just like wipe, just soften it, and then work on the detail, and then the red will come back.
Okay.
Because I think the red seems like what it is because we don't have any other information. There's not enough blue and layers in the foreground yet.
In the foreground.
Yeah. And I would let it dry because you know, you're going in and you're creating some opaque spaces. But I think for the light that you have in the ground is so beautiful. If you start working wet into wet, it's really easy to lose your value. So this is a good opportunity to just say, you know, great work today. Just let's slow down and soften out, even though, you know, there's going to be more detail in the foreground. It shouldn't be the red.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Do you have any specific questions about, like, you know, because you made a comment about how it felt, but is there anything that you are like?
Yeah, like I'm feeling at this point like it's so wet that it, like trying to add detail. That's what happened with the red. I started adding it and it just became a blob in some areas, and so yeah, it was a bit of a challenge.
So it's the slickness, yeah. And you know, it's kind of cool though, right? Where you put the red on that, right underneath the tree, like bringing in blue when it's dry, mind you. Bringing in blue and doing the shadow is going to give you a beautiful shadow color. But I think you lost some green in there. Like that there was supposed to be some green in there because the red is just little speckles. So I would take this as an opportunity to use a rag and some oil and just pull back on the red. Put it in, but you can take it out. Not maybe 100%, but you know, yeah. Stacey.
Oh, I lost my green, but I figured I can go back with yellow or just add the green now.
You know, you can bring yellow in, but this is a good example of how it feels really dark.
Yeah.
Right. So no, you know, I wouldn't fuss with it. Same with Alec. I would go slow, Stacey. Just let it be, because you can always bring in an actual green that you make with like a light yellow and a blue and start to layer that next week. I think it looks very realistic to me. It looks very impressionistic to me. I like how you're leaving things a bit uncertain. It feels very alive to me. I really.
So should I wipe some of the dark out or just leave it?
I would leave it. I would leave it. If you want to wipe out some, but I have a feeling that your burnt umber was also dark there. So unless you're trying to wipe out where the yellow was, I would just do that.
Okay.
Get back to the light. Don't try and wipe out where the dark already is. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. You might even, no, like it's hard for me on camera, but you might even want to add a little bit more yellow into the tree. Like it doesn't seem bright enough to me.
for whatever reason, I mean, I put yellow and light yellow on it. It doesn't seem to be covering the umber.
Okay, so less medium, you can maybe just try out of the tube since there's already medium on the canvas and work in.
Okay.
Just especially in the highlighted areas, like where the light is coming through this,
Yeah.
diagonal. Yeah, give that a shot, and then I would put it away because there's some great things happening, and again, letting things dry is so much more forgiving because you're not working, that wet into wet where it becomes a little bit crazy, like an oil slick, right?
Yes.
You have to, with oil paint, you really have to keep your brushes clean in the same way. And for what it's worth, as you're working, because I don't think I have said this, but if you need to clean your brush as you're working, just use linseed oil and your rag. So you're not, unless you want to use 10 brushes, which you can, because they're not going to dry out on you, which is nice. But yeah, just actually using oil. Oil removes oil. So I learned that actually from a hairstylist, is that color removes color, depending on the base. So like if you're dyeing your hair and you have like red, you didn't put Vaseline and you have red, all down your sideburns and face, that actually taking more hair dye will remove that. Maybe not all types, but it's the same with oil. If you want to remove color off your brush, just use more oil.
You know that non-permanent marker removes permanent marker?
Right? I didn't know that. That
What? I didn't know that.
If you get permanent marker and go over the top of it with non-permanent marker, it'll take and then wipe it off. It'll take the marker off. Did it at work the other day.
I'm gonna try that.
It worked.
But it totally does make sense. It's like kind of attacking it with the same substance.
Well, it's like attracts like, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just a non-permanent marker has solvent in it, right?
Non-permanent marker. Oh, you're probably right. That's why it has to work. There's got to be a science reason.
Yeah.
Always. Irene, would you like to share?
Good. I need to get more brushes because I'm like doing this all with one brush basically. I don't know if you can be able to see it. Should turn the light on. Kind of dark.
Pardon me. Great glazing with yellow. That looks like the green. It's gorgeous.
Can you see the green? Because I can't see it when I'm showing you, but
I can. Yeah.
It's very bright. Like there's some very bright green in there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So I don't know what to do with this now. I haven't done anything. It's very oily.
I couldn't tell where you were pointing. Do you mean the midground or
let me turn the light on because now it's gotten darker in here and I've got oil all over. I don't want to touch anything. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, it's mostly still white. There's a little bit of yellow in there.
So that's the midground. I would use, the blue that you've used in the sky, which is nice and subtle. It looks great. Mm-hmm. I would use that in that area, in the same, just to get something blocked in. There's a lot of, shadows of trees in there you could have fun with.
Okay. So just put that all in here.
Yeah. Just stick with blue for now until next week because the atmospheric perspective, that area being the sky blue is good. And then you can layer on, we'll see what it looks like. We can layer on a little bit of this or that next week.
Because that's like a distant, like that's another fold. Like the way this turned out, I don't know, everybody's a little different, but it's like, okay, this is the same this is the same foreground, but this is like the shadow from the trees. So this is darker and then midground, and then there's a little ridge here. So I'm trying to figure out how to portray that.
Okay, I'm just gonna go back here for a moment. All right, so this is the foreground.
Yep, yep. Okay.
This is actually a shadow from a totally different tree.
Oh, is it? Okay. Right. Okay.
That I'm standing under.
Okay.
This tree, the shadow would be on the
Right.
other side of this hill. So this is the foreground, but it's a hill going down. And then this is the hill coming up over there from, and it's like it's a rolling situation.
So all those shadows in the foreground, they're not because that light's coming from the top left. So
Yeah.
I thought a little bit of that tree is casting that shadow on. Yeah,
Yeah.
right there. Okay, okay.
And this isn't, I just really like the
hill. Yeah.
composition of it, because if that was just all in sunlight, to me it'd be boring.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'll do that in like a blue. Okay. Yeah.
So next week, we'll get into definitely blues. We'll talk about greens as a layer for having fun with, changing value as well, right? We still want to apply all those same principles, like of to consider a successful painting, you would aim for at least 3 values of each color. There's still even multiples within. So this is another reason why having softer edges at this stage is really good, because you can, with another layer of glaze, really, and depending where you put it, you can create so many other different colors and values. So we'll look at blues, greens, look at the red for sure. And then I think depending on where everyone else is, because Jane and Brenda are not here, we'll set it aside. I'll give another project for clouds, and then yet we can still work on this in the last 2 classes to add in harder edges, thicker strokes, to create depth, especially in the trees. We can go back in and talk about creating either thin, opaque accents, or actually going a little bit thicker with ridges, depending on what you like, as an absolute final layer. And I'm thinking with clouds that we'll do alla prima. Even though I call this a glazing class, I think it'd just be nice to work soft into soft. If you have any cloud photos, send them my way.
Love to do clouds. Yeah, excited.
Yeah, I think Brenda is probably the one who's used oil the most out of the whole group, possibly even myself. And yet, even for her, that reaction when I was like, do you want to do clouds? She was like, yes. And I think that just says a lot about why people want to learn oil. You see, especially in clouds, how easy it is, because it is easy. I think you'll always be.
Well, good, because I'm terrible at clouds. So
really what I might do is dig up like some notes on clouds that I can send to you, because I don't know if I'll be able to handle talking about both the like theory of where there's shadows and clouds. So if you just have a little write-up that you can have as well, and just we can work together on that. So there's where to put the value and is one thing, but I'll be able to help with how to clean your brush, how to work the process so that your oil isn't either too thick or it's getting too muddy, what brushes to use.
When we were at Amherst and we did that exercise, like that was perfect. We just went in and in 15 minutes did the cloud painting. Like that was, but that was acrylic and you had to do it so fast because it was drying. So that was an experiment that worked out really well for me. So I want to try that. And with what you're saying for that is perfect. Just do that again.
Yeah, that did work out really well, and the potential of it not have working out at all was there. So yeah, acrylic will be more of a dry brush approach usually, or that you use mediums to keep it open. And that's actually where open acrylics would be a good thing. So I think that everyone will really enjoy that, and we can, maybe just again look at, you can choose, do you want to go like, maybe we could do two small ones, one that's a little bit more colorful, like a sunset-ish, and then another one that's a little bit more neutral, like grays and earthy sky colors. Probably be nice just to play with that. We'll see. We'll see. Think about what you want and tell me, because I do think as a group, we can come up with a custom thing that hits all the points that we like and want.
I'm all for stormy weather.
Ooh, I would love to do a stormy one.
Oh, you never use water to wash your brushes for oils, no?
Never. Oh, well, okay. So, hold on. Murphy's oil soap or linseed soap, I use pure soap and start to, because soap will take oil off, but no water, okay?
Soap and rags, yeah?
I just do it in my hand like this. Here. So I put the oil in my hand.
Yeah.
And then and your hand, like the color will come off on your hand, and then the soap will start like, holding the color, and then I'll rinse it with water.
After the pigment's all out.
Yeah, you might have to soap it up twice. And I will say that if you have that, no matter how much color is on your brush, before you start to wash, take off as much as you can in the rag.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I guess, just like acrylics, it should run clean. The water should run clean. Or if you scumbled your brush on a piece of paper, there's no color coming off on it. I washed my brushes really like terribly last week. And, as as somebody who is investing all this time, like all of us, right? Investing this money, you sort of can't help but berate yourself when you come back to your brushes and they're a little bit stiff or they're a little bit gunked up, and you're just like, wow, I let that happen. So I think I left my brushes for a couple of days and they started semi-drying. So I really messed up on that. It's not, it's my fault.
But aren't there some people that never wash their brushes?
Yeah, I've heard of artists who just leave them in solvents.
Oh, they leave them in solvent. Okay.
You can leave them in oil as well. Yeah. Yeah. Either one. Oil would be safer because the solvent, if you had brushes sitting in a bucket of solvents and that solvent's just sitting there open. Stupid. But some people are crazy and they like the smell of gasoline, and I was one of them at one point. Now it just gives me a headache.
Oh, I can't do gasoline.
Well, some fine art sprays and fixatives, I'm like, oh, it smells like candy, but it's, it's not good.
It will give you cancer. It's just, yeah, bad idea.
Totally. I actually think that anything toxic should be allowed to have a bad smell. When you go to the art store now, you can get like solvents that have an orange smell to them. And why make it smell nice? Because what that does is it makes it feel like it's okay to have your rags out or have a jar of that open.
Yeah, no. No,
So-
I think the like for natural gas smells like rotten eggs. Like, yep, that's a bad thing.
Exactly. Yes.
Bad thing. Yeah.
Okay. So time to clean up. Less is more. We still have next week. And yeah, I'll send the recording out as soon as I can. We've got some people who have to catch up. And I will catch you guys in the group. I'm sorry, I have not been able to look. So I'd like to. So I'll take the time later to do that. Okay.
All right.
Thank you for sharing there.
Okay. Thanks, Sheila. I think I'll post it in the group and then I just won't touch it for now. I'll just
It's a little good archive. It inspires other people. It's also clearer for me to see. So, you know, I love everyone here is like comfortable posting in the group. I love that. But just for the recording and, you know, for Brenda, you don't have to post in the group. You could just email me a photo of it because it's better to see the detail and whatnot, especially if you have a specific question.
okay.
Have a great week.
Yep. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.